She was sitting at the edge of her bed, phone in her hand, staring at numbers that didn't make sense anymore. The balance was lower than she expected. Again, the electric bill was due. The credit card was close to maxed out. Groceries had gone up. Everything had gone up except the peace in her heart. Maybe you know that feeling. The quiet panic that hits when the house is finally still. When no one is asking you for anything, but your mind won't stop running calculations. If this clears, then maybe that can wait. If nothing unexpected happens, maybe we'll be okay. But something always feels unexpected. She had always prayed. Since she was a little girl, she knew the Lord's Prayer by heart. She could say it without thinking. And lately, that's exactly what she had been doing, saying it without thinking. Our Father in heaven. The words were familiar, comforting, but somewhere along the way they became automatic. And when prayer becomes automatic, it can lose its weight. A lot of people pray the Lord's Prayer when they feel pressure, but many get stuck on one specific line without realizing it. They rush through it. They say it, but they don't mean it. And that's often where the shift is supposed to happen. Stay with me, because by the end you'll see the exact point in this prayer that unlocks direction and unexpected provision, not as magic, but as alignment. That night she placed her phone face down and folded her hands. Not dramatically, just tired, honest. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. She paused. Father, not a distant force, not a silent sky. Father, that alone changes the tone. A father sees before you ask. A father sees before you explain. Hallowed be your name. She realized she usually rushed past that. She went straight to what she needed. But honoring who God is before listing what's wrong begins to steady the heart. Your kingdom come. What does that even mean when you're worried about bills? Kingdom means rule, authority, order. Was she living under fear's authority or God's? Your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. She almost said it quickly like she always had. But something stopped her. Your will be done. If she was honest, she wanted provision but on her terms. She wanted doors to open but only the ones she had already imagined. She wanted relief without change, help without surrender. And maybe that's where many of us quietly struggle. We ask for financial breakthrough. We ask for unexpected provision, but we still cling tightly to control. We want God to bless our plan, not lead us into His. Give us this day our daily bread, not next month's bread, not next year's security. Daily bread. Enough for today. She noticed how often she lived 10 disasters ahead, how often she suffered from scenarios that hadn't even happened, and in doing so, she missed what was already in her hands. Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Debts, the word felt heavier than usual. Not just financial, emotional, the resentment she carried, the shame she felt for being in this situation, the silent comparison to others who seemed to be doing better. Could holding on to shame be blocking clarity? Could resentment be clouding her ability to see opportunity and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil? Temptation isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's the temptation to give up, to stop trying, to believe nothing will change, to numb the fear instead of confronting it. Deliver me from the evil of hopelessness, she whispered, for yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. If the power is His, why was she living like everything depended only on her? That was the moment something shifted. Not in her bank account, not in her inbox. Inside the exact line most people rush past is, your will be done. That's where the tension lives. That's where surrender meets provision. When you truly say your will be done, you open yourself to answers that don't look the way you expected. A conversation, a small opportunity, a skill you've ignored, a door you didn't think was significant. The next morning, she woke up with an idea she had dismissed before, a simple service she could offer from home. She had always thought it was too small to matter. But what if unexpected provision doesn't arrive as a miracle falling from the sky? What if it begins as a step? She hesitated before sending the first message offering her help. Fear rose again. What if no one responds? What if this is embarrassing? Before pressing send, she closed her eyes and said it again slowly. Your will be done, not as resignation, as trust, and she pressed send. In our next video, we'll go deeper into what happened after that decision and how to turn this prayer into a 7-day practice that reshapes not just your finances, but your direction. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching. After she pressed send, the silence felt louder than before. She set her phone down on the kitchen counter and tried to distract herself. Dishes, laundry, small tasks that usually kept her mind busy. But every few minutes, she glanced at the screen. Nothing. The old thoughts crept back in. This was a mistake. You waited too long. It's too late to start something new. Other people are already ahead. Fear has a way of sounding logical. By mid-afternoon, her phone vibrated. One message, then another. Someone asking about details. Someone else saying they might be interested next week. It wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't a flood, but it was movement. She sat down slowly, reading the messages again just to make sure they were real. A small door had opened. Not the grand entrance she imagined. Not instant financial freedom, but a crack of light. That night, she returned to the Lord's Prayer. This time not out of desperation, but intention. Our Father in heaven. She breathed deeply. Father, not employer, not lender. Father, hallowed be your name. She began to see that honoring God wasn't separate from her situation. It meant trusting that even this season had purpose. Your kingdom come. Maybe the kingdom wasn't about escaping her reality. Maybe it was about bringing order into it. Structure, discipline, courage. Your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. She lingered there again. That line was no longer uncomfortable. It was stabilizing. If this small opportunity was part of his will, it would grow. If it wasn't, something else would emerge. Her job was obedience, not outcome control. Give us this day our daily bread. That day's bread had been 2 messages, 2 conversations, enough to remind her she wasn't stuck. And something else changed quietly. Instead of thinking, this won't be enough, she thought, this is today's portion. The next few days brought progress. A small paid job, then another. Nothing life-changing yet, but enough to pay one bill without panic, enough to buy groceries without that tight feeling in her chest. Then came a setback. One of the larger inquiries backed out unexpectedly. The money she mentally counted on disappeared in a single message. Her stomach dropped. The old narrative rushed in. See, it never lasts. Don't get your hopes up. She almost spiraled, almost told herself it was foolish to believe things were shifting. But this time she didn't run to anxiety. She went back to the prayer, not at night, right there in the middle of the day. Your will be done. If that door closed, maybe it wasn't the right one, or maybe it was protecting her from something she couldn't see yet. And then she noticed something powerful. The prayer had become a reflex, not just words at bedtime, a reset button in real time. Temptation showed up again. The temptation to quit while she was behind. The temptation to shrink back into comfort. The temptation to believe that small beginnings aren't worth it. Lead us not into temptation. She realized temptation isn't always about wrongdoing. Sometimes it's about abandoning growth. That night, she decided to commit fully, 7 minutes a day for 7 days. No rushing, no multitasking, just intentional prayer and reflection. Day 4, she felt steadier. Day 5, she began organizing her finances more carefully, tracking income, cutting unnecessary expenses, not out of fear, but wisdom. Day 6, she reached out to someone she had been too proud to ask for advice. The conversation opened her eyes to a new direction she hadn't considered. Unexpected provision wasn't just money, it was clarity, strategy, confidence. By day 7, something inside her felt different. The numbers hadn't exploded. She wasn't suddenly debt-free, but she wasn't paralyzed anymore. Peace had entered the room, and peace changes decisions. When you pray the Lord's Prayer slowly, especially that line, your will be done, something real happens. You stop fighting for control and start looking for guidance. You begin to see opportunities you previously dismissed. You respond instead of react. You move instead of freeze. That is how provision often begins. Not with noise, with alignment. We'll talk about how to sustain this shift long-term, how to avoid slipping back into fear once things start improving, and how to recognize the doors that are truly meant for you. By the end of the 7th day, she understood something she had never fully grasped before. Nothing dramatic had happened. No sudden windfall, no unexpected check in the mail. No miracle deposit that erased every problem overnight, but she was no longer the same woman who sat on the edge of her bed staring at numbers in fear. The Lord's Prayer had stopped being routine and started becoming structure. On the 8th morning, she woke up and felt the familiar urge to check her phone immediately, to calculate, to anticipate stress before it arrived. Instead, she sat up slowly and whispered the first line before her feet touched the floor. Our Father in heaven. It grounded her. Hallowed be your name. It shifted her focus upward instead of inward. Your kingdom come, she asked herself. What would it look like to bring order into today? Your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. There it was again, the line that changed everything. Not because it guaranteed comfort, but because it removed the illusion that she had to control every outcome. She began to notice patterns. When she prayed that line sincerely, she made calmer decisions. She didn't accept every opportunity out of fear. She didn't overcommit to prove something. She didn't undercharge out of insecurity. Give us this day our daily bread. Daily, not monthly, not lifetime guarantees. Daily. And daily became enough. A week later, one of her smaller clients referred her to someone else. That referral turned into a steadier stream of work. Still not extravagant. Still not glamorous, but consistent. Consistency feels different than chaos. She also realized something else. Before this shift, even if money had come in, she would have still lived with anxiety, because the root wasn't just financial pressure. It was fear of uncertainty. And uncertainty doesn't disappear with income, it disappears with trust. Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. She started releasing resentment toward people she had blamed for her situation. A past business partner, a family member who hadn't helped even herself. That release cleared mental space. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. The temptation now was subtle. To relax spiritually because things felt better. To stop praying intentionally because the pressure had eased. But she understood something important. The prayer was not a crisis tool. It was a life anchor. There were still days when an unexpected expense would appear. A repair, a medical bill, a surprise school fee, and for a split second the old panic would try to rise. But instead of spiraling, she would pause. Your will be done. And in that pause, space opened. Space to think clearly. Space to respond wisely. Space to trust that provision may come through a conversation, an adjustment, an idea, or a connection. Unexpected provision doesn't always look like abundance. Sometimes it looks like timing, like favor, like restraint, like a door closing before it drains you. Months later, when she looked back at that first night on the edge of her bed, she barely recognized herself. Not because she had become wealthy, but because she had become steady. And steadiness is powerful. If you are in that place right now, staring at numbers, feeling the weight of responsibility, wondering how things will work out, let this be your starting point. Don't rush the Lord's Prayer. Don't skim past your will be done. Sit with it, let it challenge you, let it soften you, let it redirect you. Commit to 7 days, 7 focused minutes, morning or night. No multitasking, no distractions. Watch what shifts inside you first, because when alignment happens internally, provision begins to move externally. If this message speaks to your current season, type 1 receive in the comments as a declaration of trust, then click the link in the bio to join the secret prayers on WhatsApp. If you're able, support the channel by purchasing a product. It helps continue sharing messages like this with others who are quietly carrying more than they show. Take a deep breath right now. Our Father in heaven, you are not alone in this. And when your heart aligns, the right doors begin to reveal themselves.